Hey everyone, the Rev here. I want to share with you a little nugget here on the Jinn and the sword of Goliath. Now, according to the Encyclopedia of Judaica and Jewish tradition, Goliath had a sword that had a gold handle and gemstones embedded into it. Now, this sword belonged to Achan, who was his father. Achan was actually the father of the giants at that time, and upon his death, his sword went to his firstborn, Goliath. So Goliath had this sword, and everybody recognized it because the giants were feared at that time, and Goliath, being the firstborn and having such a reputation that he did, he was undefeated in battle, obviously. And so this sword was very recognized. So when David came, and long story short, he defeated Goliath, threw the stone into his forehead, cut off his head. He took the head of Goliath and the sword. The head he took back just outside of Jerusalem, and he buried it in a hill, which is believed traditionally to be called Golgotha, or the Hill of the Skull. Now, here's what's interesting. That sword he kept with him. Later on in his life, Saul tried to kill him, and he fled for his life. Upon fleeing, he grabbed the sword of Goliath, and the reason was actually really brilliant. If he had the sword of Goliath, Goliath was very well known. He had this reputation, and the fact that this little redheaded stepchild who came along and killed him is now carrying around this very recognizable sword, people are going to fear him. And so he's going to automatically have a bit of respect no matter where he goes. So in 1 Samuel chapter 21, David flees to Gath. This is the area of the giants. Keep in mind, there were 5 giants at the time, and he only killed Goliath. So there's 4 more left. So he's coming here, fleeing his father-in-law for the sake of his life, and everybody who sees him, all of a sudden, they recognize the sword and say, what kind of a fool? He's got, 20 people with him? We're going to kill him. He ain't going to be able to stop all of us. We have an entire army. So here's what it says in 1 Samuel 21:13. So he, David, changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle run down his beard. In other words, he's acting insane, like a madman, like he's possessed. Here's what's interesting. This is the very thing that allowed David to escape with his life from Gath. They wanted to kill him. There is a tradition among the Arabs. Now, if you've ever watched Disney or any kind of TV show or movie that involves genies, okay, those originated from the Arab people, and they believe that spirits, or devils as the Bible calls them, they call them jinn or jinnin, and they actually possess people. Now, this whole idea of, we call them genies, they call them jinn, this whole idea that you have 3 wishes is all an elaboration by the Hollywood and just trying to make it something that it's not. But the reality is, if somebody had a jinn, they were possessed of a devil. Now, this belief had spread throughout the land, and the people here knew this belief, they knew the superstition, and they accepted it. So one of the things that their superstition was in relation to the jinn was that if you killed somebody who was possessed by a jinn, the jinn would leave their body and possess the person who killed them. Because you can't kill a jinn. You can't kill a devil. So when David gets here, they're all wanting to kill him. Knowing what they believe, he starts acting like a madman, and nobody wants to touch him. We ain't going to do anything with David. You kidding? I ain't going to die. I don't want to deal with this jinn the rest of my life. Let's just let him be. And he was able to escape. Saul wasn't going to chase him there. So he goes to one place where he knows he's not going to be captured. And then he plays on their superstition to preserve his life. Very interesting. A lot of people don't actually know that. So what you'll notice throughout the Bible, especially as you study through this, and I'm going to be doing a few short videos on superstition in the Bible, because believe it or not, there is a lot of superstition that happens in the Old and New Testament alike. This is one of the things. That's why they let David alone, and God spared his life because he was shrewd enough to play off of his enemy's superstition. Rev out.